Welcome as always, guys. In this video we're going to be looking at the melee weapon variants. Are they OP? Which is the meta? And answering a couple of questions and also clearing up some misconceptions. Okay, this is not scripted. This is just me talking. Who am I? My name is Pure. I have a main channel which is They're Just Pure. If you found this video, it's on my second channel which is Pure Shorts, and this channel looks at kind of viral clips that I've had, like gameplay and stuff like that, that's featured on top Warzone moments, top Call of Duty plays, etc. Those type of channels. And so I decided to make a second channel with some bite-sized information videos as well, and now I'm putting out this kind of feature-length video just to kind of emphasize and speak about like melee weapons. I am a melee weapon player. I play melee only. It doesn't mean I don't play guns, but when I say I play melee only, it means when I have a gameplay and I'm using the melee, like I am in this footage, then you will see me not shoot a single bullet throughout the entire video. So from start to finish, I don't shoot any bullets. I just melee, and that's pretty self-explanatory, right? So let's get into a couple of the questions and a couple of the misconceptions as well. So I was asked recently by another melee player that do you think that the loadout, a melee loadout, and by melee loadout I knew he meant, because it's probably the best and most used, Cali sticks, riot shields, possibly whatever lethals you choose, but most likely, and whatever tacticals as well, most likely stuns and some variation of either thermites or most commonly used throwing knives. There are some players that use C4 like I do, and there are, I mean, I switch it up anyway, so it's not just like, you know, it's not concrete, but I started to use C4s rather than thermites because, or the knives, because when playing solos it was more effective, or it used to be more effective when before they changed the vehicle ratio. So there used to be a lot of vehicles in solos, and in order to kind of, I got into some situations where it's a 1v1 with me and a truck, and I had nothing but throwing knives, and that was not effective at all. And even if I had thermites, it would have taken a couple to actually stick and kind of, you know, really it takes time for it to kind of work as well. But with C4s I find them more effective because you can do things like throw them down on the ground when someone comes, you can booby trap it, you can set up traps more easily, you can use yourself as bait, and when someone's coming along to try and run you over, easily detonate it. You can booby trap your own vehicle and just run into cars, jump out beforehand, and you know, and you'll see a couple of examples of that within this gameplay. Now this gameplay is not one that hasn't been seen before, and by that I mean this is one of my personal records. Okay, I get a high kill game in this, and so this has featured on my channel before, but obviously the audio is different. In that video I was actually talking through possibly my, you know, thoughts as to what I was doing or what was going on in the game, you know, just kind of like narrating and commentating and stuff. But in this video we are more specifically directed to the melee playing style. Yeah, so the melee playing style, right? So what exactly is that? Let's just break that down. So this is a CQC playstyle. CQC standing for close combat, close quarter combat, yeah. And obviously that is different from other playstyles. For example, a sniper. A sniper plays long range. Okay, they can play obviously short range as well, or mid range. However, their strengths lie in long range because they have the tool to, you know, use effectively and take out someone from a distance, whereas other people would have to use more than one shot if they didn't have a sniper. You know, for the, I mean, obviously there's exceptional exceptional circumstances. If someone's like really weak and they're low and they don't have any armor and you just one shot them with an AR or something, fine, that's different. But for the most, snipers, you know, usually one shot to the head, done and dusted. And yeah, so and by when we talk of range, you really need to learn your range as a melee player, right? So as your strengths are close, right? Like right now, as you can see on the video, yeah, someone's shooting me from a distance. I don't know where they are. I know the general direction, but I can't do nothing unless I close that gap. And in order to close that gap, I either have to do one of three things: drive up to him, which I didn't have a vehicle at the time, weave, zigzagging like I did on the roof, or just kind of push up a little with my shields. Or I could go through the houses, and that's another option. But as the gas is coming and stuff, it's not exactly the best option. So know your range. As a melee only player or a melee player, you need to really know your range, and your range is your biggest strength, because when someone gets within your range, doesn't matter what gun they have, usually for the best, if they're within your range, then that is where you should be the most effective, right? If you use right now I was talking about booby traps, right, with the C4. So this guy is actually shooting my vehicle, thinking I've done a car camping trick, which is kind of common now, where people are changing seats and shooting. So he starts to shoot it, yeah, and I just kind of think, hey, you really want the vehicle, buddy, take it. And then I set it off, and now he's dead, right? And that's what I meant about like booby traps. So your tacticals, your lethals, they're effective in different ways. You can't do that obviously with a thermite, because that's just a throwing kind of burning stick that would be effective. That's effective against other shielders, for example. Yeah, and it takes like 2 to disable a vehicle if it's a fresh vehicle. Possibly a little bit more for a truck. So yeah, you really need to play around with the loadout options in order to kind of figure out what's best for you. And that actually brings me to another point, and a main point, in fact. You can't really say that the loadout of a melee player or a sniper or anything, or anyone's loadout, is best. Even these meta guns, right? When someone's using a meta gun or an OP gun, that's great, but the thing is, you need to know how to use them, how to play with them. Yeah, if you don't have patience, if you're not good with movement, if you're not good with speed, and you can't be stealthy, then you are not going to make a good melee player. Simple as that. If you don't have patience, you're going to try to run and close that gap every time you get into a fight, and you can lose that fight. And it happens to experienced melee players, and that is just part of kind of learning your craft and sharpening those skills and getting into those scenarios where repetition will allow you to gain that experience, and it'll turn into muscle memory, and then you'll know, oh wait, I know I've done this a few times, better not do this. And sometimes there are necessary scenarios where you will have to kind of risk it for the biscuit, for example. Yeah, you kind of have to go for those plays in order to win a situation. Not all other players work and operate the same way, so it is what it is. Now let's get into the different variations of melee weapons. So most commonly used and most adopted by most people are the Kali sticks. The reason being is because they're effective in the sense that they have range, they have a lock-on action animation, which has its pros and cons. I'll get into that in a second. It's very good with speed, mobility, and it ticks all the boxes out of all the other, in comparison to all the other melee weapons. Now obviously it's down to preference, and even statistically, even if something looks better and it's higher or whatever, it always comes down to someone's taste, right? That's why you have other people using certain weapons that no one uses, because they are good with it and they know how it operates and they can control the recoil or whatever it is. Yeah, but majority of people kind of agree that the Kali sticks are probably the best option, at least in Warzone. Okay, you'll have multiplayer where people switch between the Kali sticks, the knives, the swords and stuff, but for the most, in Warzone, most effectively, I believe, in my opinion, as a melee player, and as I got some experience in this kind of field, the Kali sticks are probably the best. They just really are that kind of smoother to run around with. The knife isn't too bad, The swords are pretty decent. I would say personally the swords are second best. Although the knife is, even though you lack range with the knife is also pretty is decent. The one that's at the bottom end of the scale is, I would have to say, is the hammer. And obviously because it's heavy, it really does feel heavy, and it's not great to use. It's doable in solos, however, it's not very functional and it's not very effective with duos or any other type of mode. Now, the great thing about the Kali sticks, like I mentioned before, is it has a lock-on effect. But it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. In solos, it's very good because usually when you're fighting someone, you fight one person at a time. And so the lock-on effect will be aimed at that person, and if you kind of spam the button, the hit button, then it's going to double hit the person, and if they're down, it's going to finish them off. However, if you're in another mode, or if you happen to run into two people at the same time, maybe you're third party in someone, in a fight in solos, then it will continue to lock onto that one person you've just downed, and therefore leaving you exposed and possibly, you know, open to an attack from the actual second person. It doesn't differentiate between two enemies, so you have to really have control over that and be able to pull away after hitting someone so it doesn't lock onto that person. That's the only drawback. What is one of the advices that I would give someone who's trying this out for the first time or wants to try to get into the melee game play style? I would say, first of all, this is a very troll-like playstyle. Okay, you're gonna annoy people. You're gonna get into situations where you're gonna be able to execute people, and people don't like that. There's a lot of rage comic. It makes for great content. Okay, but because it's such a troll-like playstyle, there is gonna be a lot of hate towards you from the players in your lobbies, as well as the community in general. Now, thankfully, there are a couple of big streamers that have stepped forward recently and said, hey, you know what, I salute you, respect, because this playstyle is not as easy as it looks. It actually requires skill, it actually requires talent. It's not it's not anyone that can just pick up these weapons and start playing great with them, or play effectively with them and actually win a game, or actually get high kills or whatever. It does take some practice. You have to know how to use these weapons effectively, and so there is a change in there's a slight change, because there's the community, those followers of those streamers actually acknowledge that, but that's a very small scale. Majority of the community kind of disrespect it. There will be a lot of hate towards you if you do use this playstyle, so that is one thing to be aware of. However, if you're like me and hate just seems to fuel you, and you don't really care about the naysayers, and you love getting content because of the rage and stuff, and it's entertaining, and you play for fun, then go ahead, give it a go. Anyways, guys, drop a like on this video if you enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.